The last Final Fantasy crossover brought with it one of the most ferocious, deadly, powerful, legendary monsters of all time. Remembered in awe. And you know his name. Behemoth with a crystal but big! Hello, my fellow hunters, and welcome today as I want to chitty-chat a cabra about Title Update 3 and the newly announced Final Fantasy crossover giving us Omega. This is really exciting to me, and the main reason for it being that Behemoth was phenomenal, and it wasn't just Behemoth, as I've already alluded to at the start of this. Everything surrounding it was great. The storyline to justify it all happening, bloody portals, and indeed the new mechanics that it brought, from Ecliptic Meteor, hide or you get one shot, that for better or worse is now just part of Monster Hunter DNA. Same with the little aggro red line of you're the one in trouble with the monster because you've been stabbing a little bit too much, and various other raid-esque little touches that I, for one, as someone that loves MMOs and MMO raiding, have greatly appreciated in the various forms they've taken since Behemoth in World. A lot of love and care goes into these crossovers. I mean, it makes sense because they want to do the other game justice. There's a reason that the Final Fantasy side of things were like, okay, wow, Behemoth in World was amazing. We need to do another collab, and this time we are going to be the ones that clearly win with the better content. Of course, friendly in jest, but that kind of element does produce something wonderful. We've already talked about how Omega, with how he operates, he's not just a man-made machine, but essentially sentient in his own right, how he wants to understand the Warrior of Light and learn about entities and strength, and the fact that he himself can turn into other beings is really pushing this Wild's ancient civilization, Wyvria that got destroyed, artificial life, the equal dragon weapon aka Zoshia, and wyvern milk, infinite energy. There's a lot of space to be explored. Maybe even the frenzy might be something Omega's like, ooh, okay, what's going on there? You could see it actually break down a lot of ways. And that's the thing I initially think is really exciting, the actual story justification. I know there's a small minority that kind of roll their eyes when story comes up in Monster Hunter and they just want to get to the wearing of the skin, and I totally feel you, but I and many others adore the why, not just the doing. And I think context is king when it comes to this, because it's easy to see this really a machine-looking thing. What, this doesn't fit, this doesn't work, and I have seen that expressed on both ends of the spectrum. Some actual, well-articulated, delivered with grace concerns, all the way to toxic idiots being toxic idiots. This is good to get. It is free, it is monsters, it is gonna be fun. It is planned from the beginning. It's not wasting a slot that could have gone to a different monster, which is one of the most hilarious things I have ever seen uttered. But the point is that this does work, and there are a lot of cool ways it can go. Especially with us finding out that the Monster Hunter team specifically chose and wanted Omega. There has to be reason by that, and that reason more than likely is going to be in an expanded actual story and stuff to do with him. They've also said that Alpha, of course, will be making an appearance, which adds a whole other dimension, and basically a lot of actual thought has gone into this when it comes to why choosing Omega, and the fact that this Omega isn't the Omega from Final Fantasy, because given the story that happens with him, that would be too sad, and this one is a different version, a different AI, as it were, to quote them. So, based on the interviews we know about, and we've talked about this in depth in a dedicated video, there is likely going to be some real meat on this Omega bone. which is just a fantastic sentence in of itself, honestly. However, what I wanted to talk about today is not my thoughts specifically on Omega, but the rest of the Final Fantasy crossover event. We know, obviously, we're getting Cactuar as endemic life. Back in World, they were essentially environment traps that would spray the thorns and do a lot of damage. Like, a lot of damage, like they were busted.
But before we dive into it, here's Rage on the top 3 reasons why Cactuar is
rocket power! As Team Darkside had no problems proving back in the day. Shout out to them and that awesome video. Reason number 1. The highest Cactuar damage outperforms most of the true charge slashes. Wait, what? What? Wait, is that right? That's not right. Is that right? What? No! What the fuck? We're getting Chocobo skin for Sacred, a match made in heaven, and then that's about it for hard confirms. I think there's also obviously a 100% chance of weapons and armor that we've not seen yet. I don't think that takes a real brave stance to predict, but then we kind of run out. So the reason why Yankat-Ku did come up at the beginning is I've seen a lot of discourse on, is it just going to be Omega? That's cool, but we've gotten a couple of things each title update, Zoshia and Mizutsune, Lagiacrus and Seregios. Is it really just going to be Omega? And that's kind of what I want to examine today. Firstly and foremost, there is every chance we do get an introductory fight. Maybe some kind of modified monster that's affected by Omega's presence, like the Yankat-Ku with the crystal. That is a distinct path that can be gone. And obviously, Yankat-Ku with crystal isn't a distinctly new or, well, official monster, but for all intents and purposes, it is a Yankat-Ku. I mean, we're going to call it a variant. And I really enjoyed fighting it. In fact, it was a shame you couldn't just chain fight it. The size, the crystal box, it was really, really fun. Him just growing consistently throughout the fight as he kept accidentally absorbing energy. It was just brilliant. A really perfect starter to the rip-roaring main course that was Behemoth himself. And talking of Behemoth himself, what did we get after that? Extremoth, which... Oh, God. No. Oh, God. Wait. If we get Extreme or Savage Omega, well, may GOG have mercy on our souls. That is entirely potential too. But I guess more likely is 9-star, right? They said that there will be a 9-star version of every monster added in Title Update 3. Now, to quote the specific wording, finally, we can also assure you that any new monsters added in Title Update 3 will also feature 9-star difficulty quests. Now, this was obviously said to be as vague as possible before Omega and the crossover was revealed, but at the same time, there is a little bit of hope to this sentence. Any new monsters. I feel like saying that and then it's just Omega feels a little bit anticlimactic, so you have to leave the door open for potentially further monsters, and I think that there is something perhaps going on here, but of course, I will fully admit it is a tenuous one. But we've also got to remember that Lagiacrus was all we knew with Title Update 2 until the big trailer shortly before it came out, and then suddenly Seregios out of nowhere. So it's not like surprises are off the table. We now know, of course, from the talisman system being separated that it was never anything to do with a Title Update 3 monster or system. It's just another layer added to the game. So we don't have to think along those lines. But we also have the 9-star monster editions. As mentioned previously, Title Update 3 will see the gradual introduction of 9-star monsters in event quests as well. So this is interesting, and how is that going to play out? Does that mean the existing 9-star monsters join in event quests, and then we just have hard event quests, or are we going to get non-9-star currently available monsters amped up to 9 stars in event quests, like a silly 9-star Chatacabra, or a more reasonable 9-star Rathalos to let him stand amongst his fellow Apexes? That feels kind of likely. I doubt we're going to get, obviously, new monsters as 9-star just in event quests, but that's also something to think about with the title update. That's not a new monster per se, but it's a new way to experience a monster. If anything that currently doesn't have 9 stars gets one, well, that's currently something that doesn't have a hard mode or a proper air quotes fight getting one. 9-star of any of the middle tier or even lower tier monsters would be a hilarious fun time. Also, absolutely guaranteed there is going to be at least one other new monster in Title Update 3 past Omega, unless they really break tradition or theme, because we're going to be looking at another Arch-Tempered, right? And if the pattern continues, it should be new Udra, leaving dahaad for last. So, at minimum, it's going to be Omega, and then a little bit later, with the Autumn Festival that will no doubt be a part of it, actually give us Arch-Tempered new Udra, and we know that whatever we think, Capcom themselves considered the Arch-Tempered new monsters worthy of giving that S. So I've seen a lot of people bring up the new roadmap and go, oh look, it's just Omega Planetes right there. There's nothing else, it's just that one monster. But if we look at the older roadmaps, Arch-Tempereds do get added to them. So clearly there is going to be at least one more update to this roadmap once we get more reveals and details on Title Update 3, presumably in the early part of September, or at least by the middle, given it's going to come out in late. Then again, we tend to only get the full reveals of Title Update like a week before they come out, so it might be more towards the end. But I don't think it is very unreasonable at all to suggest that there's going to be more than meets the eye when it comes to Title Update 3. Not to mention, again, Omega himself perfectly being capable of temporarily turning into either an existing monster, a new monster, or a new form of an existing monster, which I think might be the most likely. Or hell, even just generating a monster for us to fight, maybe a new Guardian. That's a little bit more far-fetched, but given that Guardians exist and they are artificially created, I don't think it would be a bad move to essentially introduce the Omega fight with the discovery of a new Guardian. That would be really interesting and in line with the update with the crossover. It would be a really good way to discover that Omega is here via him messing around with a Guardian that just so happens to be a new Guardian, maybe the first kind of apex level Guardian that isn't obviously the one-time Guardian arkveld. Obviously, there's every chance we finally get a Tempered Zoshia too, or even a 9-star Tempered Zoshia. That will shake things up if that happens too. So that is entirely a possibility. So ultimately, I think at minimum it's going to be more than Omega because of an Arch-Tempered, but optimistically and indeed likely, based on how the Behemoth event went down, there's going to be more to it. Even if that's just a hard form of Omega, because that, in Behemoth's case, was one of the best, most engaging and fun challenges in just, honestly, all of Monster Hunter, thinking about it. I kind of wanted to make this just to really have a more deeper discussion on my thoughts of the whole thing, which is that this is going to be amazing, because I just trust that Capcom will make it so, based on the evidence we have, which is the exact same crossover already being done once and already being amazing, and to kind of answer a few little fears I've seen spring up of a sort of is that it mentality, because I just don't think that that will come to pass. I think this will be meaty, both from, again, what's likely, from what we've seen, the talismans being moved out of it, the 9-star factor, the Arch-Tempered factor, the Q equivalent factor, the fact that Omega has plenty of justification to involve other monsters factor, the story tie-ins. There is a lot of potential here, and I can't wait to see what is actually realized when it comes to the real thing. Let me know what your thoughts are. Like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. And until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.